The CMO Confidential podcast is a proud member of the I Hear Everything podcast network. Looking to launch or scale your podcast? I Hear Everything delivers podcast production, growth, and monetization solutions that transform your words into profit. Ready to give your brand a voice? Then visit iheareverything.com.
Welcome to CMO Confidential, the podcast that takes you inside the drama, decisions, and choices that go with being the head of marketing. Hosted by five-time CMO Mike Linton.
Welcome, marketers, advertisers, and those who love them, to Chief Marketing Officer Confidential. CMO Confidential is a program that takes you inside the drama, the decisions, and the politics that go with being the head of marketing at any company in what is one of the most scrutinized jobs in the executive suite. I'm Mike Linton, the former CMO of Best Buy, eBay, Farmers Insurance, and Ancestry.com, here today with my guest, Brent Rivard. Today's topic: why are so many marketers ignoring the $8.3 trillion market hiding in plain sight? Now, Brent is the CEO of Geezer Creative, a purpose-built creative agency focused on the 50-plus market. Previously, he served as CMO of Internova Travel, the president of Mass Minority, and the global managing director of Anomaly. He's here today to talk about the opportunity presented by the older consumers and why he believes much of the marketing thinking on age is not just wrong, but completely wrong. Welcome, Brent.
Thanks. It's quite the introduction, Mike. Thank you.
There you go. Well,
great to be here. Cheers.
I've had a lot of practice.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, you've done this before.
All right. So let's start with Geezer. Tell our listeners about the agency and why it was created even in the first place.
It's great. I mean, like you said in the intro, I left the creative world and went to be the CMO and see the world from the other side. So I have a lot of empathy for what CMOs go through and what the opportunities are that they're facing and challenges that they're facing. And then I wanted to come back to the creative world. I got a little hung up on the bureaucracy of being client side and had a real inkling and craving to get back to the creative side. But I didn't want to do it. And the industry had shifted so significantly that I didn't want to do it just as I had before. And I mean, as the world's changed, CMOs' challenges have become really finite, and their business challenges are different than they were 20 years ago when a Super Bowl ad could cure all. It doesn't work anymore. And what I realized, and my creative partners realized, is that we were still operating, most agencies, 90% of them are generalists, trying to figure out very specialized problems. And I found that fascinating. That, we have a line on our website that says, if you want to get in the mind of a 52-year-old female, you probably shouldn't ask a 25-year-old man. And, that's kind of a starting point that, why don't we create an agency that is getting after the segment of the market that is the largest disposable income that marketers are ignoring? So if my bet's right, it's that they're going to start not ignoring it. And we're seeing some great momentum that way. And in order to do so, to alleviate some of the pain points of being a client, which I had experienced, we've decided to employ creative teams that are from that same cohort, because I don't want to go 5 rounds of creative so that my junior teams can learn what business you're even in, right? So
yeah, or what it's like to be a little older. You could just have me. Yeah.
Yeah. So if I want to take on a beauty client focused on 55-year-old postmenopausal women, I'm going to assign a creative team that are 55-year-old postmenopausal women. Like, what a novel idea.
So this is segmenting of the agency, the agency delivery actually itself.
Exactly.
Like this is, I'm going to call it reverse consumer segmentation, if that makes any sense, which is, I'm going to go to the people that do this. And one of the things inherent in your entire creation of this is the older population is a way to make your marketing numbers for a lot of companies, if only you would treat them as a customer segment versus too old to do anything. Is that right? Am I looking at that the right way?
Yeah, it's as you said at the beginning, it's the elephant hiding in plain sight. You got an $8.3 trillion market that controls 70% of disposable income, and
And
we're
this is
still,
just the US, right?
this
This
is
is
just the
just
United
in the
States.
US, yeah.
And we're wanting to still market to Gen Z and chase the shiny young object like it's 1990, where there was, if we can get them when they're young, they'll be a customer for life. Well, that went that went out the window.
And why is that? Like, because 8.3 trillion is a lot to ignore.
Yeah.
It is kind of, we've had a bunch of guests on the show that have said, hey, look, the biggest purchasing power group is this over 50 and over 60, and they're going to transfer this money sometime, but they're not in a real big hurry to actually transfer it down. And they are still buying a lot of shit. Why are people not paying attention to it?
You know what? I think it's 100 factors. One, I mean, ageism is part of the problem, right? A lot of, the 50 plus executives have left the building, especially at ad agencies. Less than 5% of ad agencies in America employ people over 50 years old. So that's part of the problem. So if I'm a creative team and I'm 28 years old, I want to create 28-year-old solutions, right? That's my cohort. And there's nothing wrong with that. You're going to be using your vernacular, your language, your aspirations, and putting your life lens on that. And that's part of the problem. So as I call it, the juniorification of the ad business is part of the problem. The marketers, I mean, if you're a 35-year-old marketer and you're taking on a brand and you're an alcohol brand, you want to market to your people. It just is what it is.
Yeah.
And the third thing I'd say, and there's a long list, but just focusing on the three, is that people aren't taking risks anymore. It's funny, I'm Canadian, and I used to admire Americans for just that, like, nothing's impossible. Let's break the rules. Sticking your head above the clouds was how you got famous. That's how you got promoted. And here we were in Canada, and I really never loved the conservative kind of nature of Canadians. And, it was like, well,
Am I supposed to say I'm sorry all the time too?
exactly, right?
I'm sorry.
So I always loved that. But I'll be honest, in the past, decade and a half, I've watched America become more Canadian, every day. And people don't want to stick their head above the clouds.
So wait, one of the things is you look at a lot of CMOs today, and a lot of them have come up through the, performance marketing ranks where data is the dominant thing. If I look at the older market, the senior market, whatever you want to call it, gray market, as a standalone TAM, 8.3 trillion is a really big number. How is it that this doesn't show up on my spreadsheet, especially when I'm selling something that is not youthful driven? And how much does, like, when I look at this TAM, how much does lifetime value come into play? Because the TAM number alone is just so big.
Right. But that whole lifetime value of a customer thing, like, just it looks great on paper. It doesn't exist anymore. Nobody's loyal to anything, any age group. People are still talking about Gen Z's loyalty versus millennials versus boomers versus Gen X. None of us are loyal anymore. We move and shake everywhere, right? Like, where did On Running come from? Like, they've been around for like 27 years and I never heard of it, but all of a sudden everything's On Running and everything's aloe. Like, how did Lululemon get beat up overnight? Like, they were the darling of the stock market for 2 decades, right? Because people aren't loyal anymore, right? That you need to market to people and you need to grab that cohort and get them involved and look at the brands that have lost their way. Like Victoria's Secret lost their way, right?
Yeah.
But I think a lot of it, to that final reason, is that it's just habitual. We're still using the same playbook, and nobody's rewarding really diverting completely from a playbook and risk taking and sticking their neck out and trying. And that's all that I think that's my main message to marketers. Is by no means am I saying bail on Gen Z and millennial marketing in favor of Gen X. What I am saying is, it's a monster market that if you are in a category that is attractive to them, why not run a test with some reasonable money to figure out that you may be onto the next greatest way of blowing your numbers out the water, right?
And is this an easier market to take? Because when I look at also how media is pricing everybody in the the what everybody values in media, and it's not just the marketers, it's the media companies are working to deliver, shows that drive youth and everything else, and so shows that drive social. How much of this is you just have to actually buck the trend, and how do you buck the trend? And give me some examples of companies that are bucking the trend.
Well, there aren't any great ones right now, save for, funny enough, who would have thought that Hollywood would have started to buck the trend? I would have assumed they'd be last to the party. But if you look at casting and the award shows over the past few years, Hollywood's actually getting ahead of it, right? And we're celebrating that older cohort and really, really leaning into it. Then you have luxury, right? So the luxury category, you're hard pressed to find somebody under 60 that, Saint Laurent is all over it. And a lot of the luxury brands are starting to really pay attention to this cohort. But that aside, I don't see anybody that's really confidently carving out a segment and saying, I'm consciously going after Gen X as a cohort with our product and getting after it. I don't
And how
see
about
it.
like why? To me, it feels like autos and an awful lot of people that, if I have money and I like the convenience of what money buys for me, that this market is just sitting there for me to take if I design a product. And I've designed a bunch of products for all kinds of different like segments. Are you saying that I can go after this from both a product standpoint and also a channel perspective?
100%, right? If you think of the health club business, God, the longevity business is like just exploded. And,
Right.
so they're starting to pay attention. They get it. Oh, Gen X and boomers want to live forever, and they're spending copious amounts of money on their health and well-being. So health clubs need to start paying attention.
Yeah.
We aren't the 50-year-olds of our parents' generation. I mean, it's funny. Somebody posted, I can't even remember where it was on Instagram, that it was like, this is a picture of so-and-so at 35. And then here's a picture of a 35-year-old today that's basically like dancing on TikTok. This
Yeah.
person's, mature for the, like, we're just not the 50-year-olds. Like, we're filling up when I'm in my gym in my building, right? We're filling up gyms. We're working out. We're still training like we were in our 20s. We still buy the
Oh, we're not going to let go.
Right. No, we're still, and like I said, like Lululemon, right? Great idea. There are a whole bunch of 50-year-olds doing yoga, right?
So give me an example of brands that should do this but don't. Like you already put Lulu on the table. I guess when you look at you can say maybe Nike should have been paying more attention to the
Yeah,
older consumer.
for
Give us
sure.
some other brands that should think older but don't. I was on Ancestry, and that was definitely, we were targeting older, 45 and up all the
Yeah.
time.
I
Um,
mean, my previous life travel, right? We
yeah,
don't do $5,000 vacations, right? Multiply that number by four. We
yeah,
sit in front of the curtain,
yeah,
right? On airplanes, start probably marketing to the people that don't sit at the back of the plane, right? It's
yeah.
not a horrible idea. I'm not saying that everybody that's 50 plus is wealthy. That's bullshit too. But there's that opportunity where we're traveling a lot and we're enjoying like the beauty category. I mean, I was speaking to a particular beauty company and doing just some, just desktop research and me going, it's not even Gen Z. You're marketing to women with allowances. Like, how about you pay attention to my wife, right?
Yeah.
The amount of money spent, like the running joke in my family every Saturday is, gee, are we going to Sephora by any chance? Like, stop by, pick up a couple things that somehow are $180 every weekend, right?
So is this because I'm sitting there in the marketing job and I might be a little on the younger side and I have a playbook? Like, is this all about the playbook, or is it all about the culture in the company that says you can't break the playbook? Or is it all about I don't even want to hear that just because we will get them anyways?
Yeah.
That's the one thing people will say is we will get them anyways. And how do I assess whether I should push on this and whether it's my playbook, my culture, or my company that's in the way?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of all of the above, right? I mean, if you think of the playbook that's existed the same and like I was saying, the world's becoming a little more risk averse, and sticking your head above the clouds hasn't become as popular as it used to be. So, do I balk at the playbook and really try to shake it up as a young marketer, or do I just, I'm kind of happy to have my job in the world of AI and the headlines of taking everything over, and maybe I should just stick to the playbook? But it is absolutely company culture. I mean, once upon a time, I've worked for some great companies that had incredible cultures around, nothing's impossible, like push, push, push. And those are great cultures that if you have that culture with a tried and true playbook, yeah, probably if you wanted to break the rules, you could. But if you have that culture, you probably don't have a stringent rule book. And it's the way we're bringing up marketers. Like you know the people of Procter and Gamble and the Unilevers of the world, and hey, they've come up with great systems for developing marketers, and this is how we do it. And we test our ads and we do animatics, and hey, it's worked for them. I can't criticize them. But at what point does that become detrimental to your business's health in discovering new growth in a world that you should be discovering new growth in all the time?
And how much of this is ageism where I say, look, I mean, if you look at all the technology that's roared into the marketplace, whether it was mobile, digital, social, whatever, where everyone immediately thought this is a young person's game. It
Right.
turns out that it's everybody's game. But there's that inherent bias that old people just don't get it.
Right. Which is
How do
which is
you
a shocking
fight
bias.
that? How do you fight that? And how do you prove that it's not the issue?
Well, I mean, I had a great debate with a couple of young people at one point that I said Gen X arguably is the most adaptable generation in the history of the planet. I mean, think of what we went through. I mean, we went from beepers to cell phones to Palm Trios to Blackberries to iPhones to iPhone being a real smartphone to cameras. Like, that's just that piece of tech. We went through the incept. There was no internet, right? We went through internet 1.0, 2.0, 2 point whatever the hell it became, 3.0. So that when people are like, "Ooh, I don't know about your generation in AI," I'm like, "What are you talking about? We're the best generation for AI." One, we grew up prompting people, right? So AI is only as good as the person prompting it, right? We grew up prompting people. We grew up saying "so what" in strategy sessions, and how do you get to meaning out of that? Our generation doesn't use AI to get an answer. We use AI, or I use AI to get to a better one.
Yeah.
Like,
Hey, so we've done a bunch of shows, and the implication in some of your comments is that many leaders, marketing leaders in particular, know they should do this, but they just won't do it. We
right.
did a show called The Truth Behind the Curtain in B2B marketing in
Yeah,
particular, where the guest basically said, like 60% of marketers know they should do something different, but they're not going to.
right.
What's your take on that? And
They're afraid.
they're afraid, but like, are they're afraid that they will get shot for trying a new thing, or
Yeah.
they're just afraid that they don't really believe the answer?
I think they're afraid.
Yeah.
I think that if you're a studied, or they're just a piss poor marketer, I'll just call it what it is. Like, if you're a good marketer, the qualities of a great marketer, maybe that's being ignored in the hiring process, right? You should be genuinely researching your segment, your growth opportunities. You should be dialed in. You should be questioning everything. You should be searching for growth. You should be questioning everything that your company has ever done and looking for new opportunities. But if we're hiring people that are just, hey, they stick to the systems and they don't stick their neck out that much and they don't rattle the cage, then you're getting what you deserve, right?
So give me our listeners, like when they go home and look in the mirror after listening to this show, how they might actually take a look on whether the boomer millennial market might be right for them. I always want our listeners to say, all right, am I the blocker or am I the problem? And how do I know?
Right.
Because there's probably not a bunch of people going out there, I'm ignoring this market on purpose.
Right.
I should look at myself in the mirror and ask myself what?
Start with the basics. What's the size of the market of that generation currently purchasing your product that you're ignoring, right? Or what's the percentage of a competitors that you could actually steal share from that are in that? And then I think you have to question what your KPIs are, because I think that's what leads us down the wrong path a lot, right?
Give
You
me
look
an
at
example
performance.
of good KPIs and bad KPIs.
Well, if you're saying, well, let me dream something up. Okay, so the social campaign that I'm launching is rewarding engagement and shares and blah 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 and blah blah blah. But the 50 plus cohort, we don't consume social media that way, right? We look at it, we check it out. We're not the ones that are sitting commenting and massive back and forth engagement with the brand. Like, we don't do that. So your KPI might be like, no, but we did something in social against 50-year-olds, but engagement wasn't the numbers that we're supposed to do for our KPIs. Maybe your KPI is wrong because that cohort doesn't do that, right? And maybe your KPI should start with commerce, right?
And when you say commerce, you're talking sales.
Exactly.
Yeah, because
Like
my
maybe
thing
you
is,
should-
if it like all the other marketing diagnostics, like shares or
yeah.
likes or anything, they're diagnostics. They're not actually an outcome. The outcome has to be sales.
And
But
how many meetings have you been in when literally a marketing team will be defending themselves going, well, I mean, hey, we hit this number, this number, this number. Like, I did it. And you're
that's
like, wait a
true.
second.
But this says marketers. Here's what I hear you saying. Correct me if I'm wrong. If you really want to pay attention to this market, you should look at what it could buy, not what it can do
Correct.
with the media you give it.
Right.
And then you should figure out how to get it to buy more. And that may be, if you're not measuring it the right way, you may be ignoring the fact that you haven't figured out how it buys stuff, but it wants to.
Right. And if you're and question that you might not know and get curious. Because if I'm a 30-year-old marketer and I'm like, well, I don't understand. Why wouldn't a 52-year-old male be engaging with this incredible social campaign just like a 30-year-old? Great, ask the question.
Yeah.
Right? Then you might find the answer is, oh, that's either the wrong KPI or that's not how I'm going to win them as a client, right? That might be how you're going to build awareness with them, but they're not going to click through and buy. Like, like think of the difference between, I think Gen X is healthy when it comes to purchasing things via Instagram or social channels, but maybe a 68-year-old isn't. So if you were going to the boomer segment, you might not be driving, like, it's just basics. Like, follow the behavior of the cohort and learn, go to school.
But inherent in this is what you are saying is you should take a look at this market as a purchasing segment versus a media segment.
Yes, 100%.
And that means you should go find the data that allow you to understand how it buys stuff.
Right.
Not how it engages with media. And I hear you saying, correct me if I'm wrong, don't confuse the media with the sales.
Exactly. And also don't confuse your predispositions to this segment. And we're all guilty of that, right?
Yeah.
I do it the other way, right? Oh, young people, they should no, I'm wrong.
Those young people, God damn them.
Right.
How about, there's a whole bunch of people, there's an inbred bias or internal bias almost always that you have to cast younger spokespeople. You have to show up in younger media because even if your brand appeals to older people, you don't want to give it the halo of old.
Right. It's the old adage, right? You can sell an old guy a young guy's car, but you can't do the opposite.
Exactly.
But we're in a world where now you can do the opposite, right? Like Demi Moore, she's lighting it up, and you have a lot of young women aspiring now to that notion. And you have
tell us about, not everybody has followed Demi Moore like you. So tell us what Demi Moore is doing.
Well, her whole like unapologetic way of aging, and stop telling me about anti-aging, and Pam Anderson taking her makeup off and saying, I don't wear it anymore. Like, I went from Baywatch to a confident woman in her own skin that's taking ownership of her aging process and enjoying it. Right. And you have women online that are getting, the trolls would come out and start, oh my God, she looks so old. And they're punching back and going, we're super proud of it. Like this trend is amazing for young women because we all know what's happened with young women being mistreated and unfairly marketed to with just people that were just
Aspirations that are unachievable. Yeah.
unachievable. So
The other thing inherent in this maybe is in the age of AI, where I can produce and send content to everybody, are you also saying that there is a lot less holding you back than there might have been 20 years ago? Where, I have to shoot all these commercials or I have to do this. And now I can create a bunch of content. I can market to different segments. Is that,
well, and it's
that?
and it's yeah, and it's so specialized. I mean, it's I mean, just a meta platform. I mean, we love to hate meta, but at the end of the day, if you want to target a 56-year-old man that's balding, it's pretty
There
easy
you
to
go.
find them.
Yeah.
Right. So, but it's just about wanting to.
We're not
Right?
selling you hair care products.
Right.
Yeah.
Like it blows me away that Gen X, I don't know if it's combined with boomers. I think it might be. Gen X and boomers outspend Gen Z 8-1 in alcohol sales.
Yeah.
But every brief from an alcohol company, I know this for a fact because I still hang out with a lot of them, it
Yeah.
says 25.
Yeah.
But sorry, you're going to, it's one thing back to have been marketing me when I was 25.
Yeah.
But now you're trying to take a generation that is, right, not drinking at all and doesn't want to, and is smoking instead of, so vaping.
Right.
And consuming cannabis and mushrooms instead of drinking. You're saying that you're going to convert them to drinking?
Yeah. You're going to convert
I
them
have
to
an
bourbon.
idea. Market to me.
Market to me. Yeah. Sell me your bourbon. I'm ready.
Right? When I end my day, I have a choice of a cocktail, and you're not marketing to me. So you know what? I'm ignoring you, right? And then you have what on, I won't even pick on a particular company, but alcohol companies in the last 4 years, their stock prices are down approximately 40 to 45%.
Oh yeah.
I have a great idea. Try something new.
So this, how about this? Hall of Fame best and worst marketing practices you're seeing across this segment today.
Doing the same thing you did yesterday, right? I mean, it's becoming like marketing malpractice. Like it's starting to become, it's not fun, right? Like I'm not seeing a lot of fun out there. I'm not seeing a lot of like, oh my God, did you see that move that company X just pulled?
Yeah.
Like back in the day, marketing was like war games, right?
Yeah.
If you've ever read the book, it's Canadian, but it's called Loggerheads. And it was about the epic battles between Molson and Labatt back in the heyday of marketing and advertising. And the greatest story in the book was that I think it was, I can't remember which it was, but Labatt had come out with a twist top. It was Labatt because it was for Bud Light, I think.
Yeah.
And they kept it so under top secret. And at the time, Miller Genuine Draft, which was owned by Molson, was like the clear bottle, like the Corona. So they, Labatt actually shot a Super Bowl ad about a clear bottle and purposely leaked it, like to somebody that found it. And they're like, oh my God, they're coming after us. So we're going to do an MGD ad that is going to be this, and this. And they caught Molson exactly where they wanted them. And they released their Super Bowl ad, and it's the twist off cap. And they had a 2-year head start and drove something like 40% market share flip, like just astronomical numbers. These are great marketing stories.
And MGD is Molson Gold. Is that what it is?
What's that? No, Miller Genuine Draft.
Miller Genuine Draft. Yeah. Okay.
And it's the rights to that was from Molson. So, but there's these great stories of just marketing moves, and I haven't heard anything.
Well, and also there's something in there that you just said. It wasn't just marketing; it was also product design and development.
100%.
And also, when you think a twist off cap changes the game, but it actually did. Stuff like that did change the game. Any last tips you would give people before we get to our traditional last question, when they look in the mirror and say, am I getting all I can from this market, other than the math and the give it a shot thing.
Start by asking the question you just asked. Am I getting enough from this market? Am I missing out on growth? That's your job.
If I'm a regular brand, like I'm not like targeted to kids, or I'm not diapers or something, should I say I should always have my at least fair share of this market?
100%. I mean, start with, are you paying any attention to it? Is it your market? It's not for everybody. I don't know that would I? No, I don't think I'd be saying to Monster Energy drink. Really think you should launch something to baby boomers. Like, I don't think that's
the baby boomer Red Bull shot.
So it's not for everybody. I'm not saying that every category, but for the vast majority of it, there's monster opportunity in this segment. They have a ton of disposable income, and get curious again as a marketer. It's like marketers they're afraid to be marketers again. Like, just question everything and just look at it. And in this day and age, back in our day, you would have had to have spent millions and millions and millions of dollars to get the answer to this question.
You would have.
You could probably spend thousands, if that, and get the answer to the question, right? Just figure that out on various platforms that are highly efficient and we're probably not the only agency that's specializing in the 50+ market. So yeah, absolutely. I'd love you to call me at Geezer Creative, but if there's somebody else out there, just hire somebody specialized. It's not rockets. I didn't invent this. Like, remember, like 20 years ago, somebody was like, I'm going to have a female only agency. Yep. Incredible idea. Or I'm going to have an Hispanic agency in the United States. Wow, what a novel idea to hire somebody that's Hispanic to go after an Hispanic market. They might just know the insights better than I do. Right?
All right. Well, so giddy up. There's a market, an $8.3 trillion market waiting for you, which brings us to our traditional last question. Funniest story you can share on the air, or practical advice we haven't talked about yet. You can pick one or both of those, but you must pick at least one.
Pick at least one what?
At least one of those two questions. Practical advice we haven't discussed yet, or funniest story you can share on the air.
Oh God, I don't know. I mean, I wish I had a funny story. I wish I could have prepped for this. Funny stories. I got nothing off the top of my head. I'm sorry.
Okay, then you got to go to the practical advice column.
I mean, I'll just repeat the practical advice.
How about practical advice for those interfacing with agencies that are working on this segment? Like, what is the best advice you could give your potential client base for engaging an agency of your type?
Of any type. I'll even go to any type.
Okay, any type.
We're still talking about the age old, like, we're still like sending out RFPs that are 73 pages from clients and like pitching. Like, what? Yeah. Right? At the end of the day, there's no shortage of talent in any country in the creative space. Hire people you want to work with, right? Don't run a pitch. Get them in a room for a day, 2 half days. Right? Do jam sessions, do some working sessions, talk about your business problems, talk about the opportunities that you think are there, and listen and interact with these people. If the lead person that you're going to be dealing with in a room is an egomaniac and they kind of rub you the wrong way, I have a great idea. Leave. Right? And if you're really loving that company, but you haven't really even heard of them before, give them a shot, right? Give them a shot. They might just be able to deliver something fantastic for you.
All right. I think that's a great way to end the show. Thank you, Brent.
Awesome.
And thanks to everyone for listening to CMO Confidential. If you are enjoying the show, please like, share, and subscribe. You can find all of our more than 170 episodes on Apple, YouTube, and Spotify, which include the AI marketing battle, a view from the front lines, the unit economics of AI. Can LLMs actually make money? Colonel Mustard in the study with the job spec, how poor design shortens CMO lifespans, and managing the geopolitical landscape. Hey, all you marketers, stay safe out there. This is Mike Linton signing off for CMO Confidential.